My father paid my 11-year-old niece to ruin my son's 8th birthday, and he made sure everyone was watching. The cake collapsed under a bucket of mud, the guests began leaving, and my brother smiled like a debt had finally been collected. My son walked away without crying. I looked at the security camera above the porch and made one decision. What had it captured before the party? The first thing I saw was the orange bucket rising above my son's birthday cake. The cake stood beneath the old oak tree, 3 tiers of white frosting in the shade. At the far end of the yard, the rocket-shaped bounce house still hummed. More than 30 people had gathered around the table, waiting to sing. My son stood beside the cake with 8 blue candles in a clear plastic box. Then my niece tipped the bucket. It was a 5-gallon bucket, but it was only about 1/3 full. That was still enough. The mud struck the top tier first, till words of frosting folded inward. The funfetti layer slid into the chocolate beneath it, and both collapsed into the vanilla base. Dirty water ran over the tablecloth and dripped onto the grass. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then a little girl near the drinks began to cry. One mother lifted her child and headed for the gate. Another father started folding his chair. My father stayed seated near the fence, holding a glass of sweet tea. I told her I'd get her the new phone if she taught your boy a little humility. He spoke as if he had corrected bad behavior, not ruined a child's birthday. My brother stood beside him. He looked at the cake, then laughed. Maybe now he'll stop thinking every day has to be about him. I felt myself step forward. For years, I had been the one who kept family arguments from becoming wars. I paid what needed paying. I fixed what others left broken. I believed peace was worth the price. Then I looked at my son. He had not moved. His hands were still wrapped around the box of candles. Mud had splashed across his shirt, but he did not wipe it away. He set the candles on the arm of an empty lawn chair and walked through the side gate. No shouting, no tears, no questions. He sat on the front steps with both hands between his knees and stared at the driveway. That frightened me more than crying would have. Adults like to say children forget because they are young. I knew better. They may forget the cake or the guests. They do not forget the moment they realize no adult is going to protect them. Behind me, chairs scraped across the patio. Families left in quiet groups. Within minutes, the bounce house stood empty, but the blower kept running. Its steady hum filled the yard like a machine that had not been told the celebration was over. I looked toward the security camera beneath the back porch roof. I did not know what it had recorded. I only knew I would not scream in that yard. I would not give my father and brother the chance to call me unstable. Before that night ended, I would begin removing every brick from the life they had built with my money. My wife appeared in the back doorway with her phone in her hand. The camera caught what happened before she picked up that bucket. Rebecca placed her phone on the kitchen table and turned the screen toward me. The recording had started 40 minutes before the cake was destroyed. At first, there was nothing unusual. Children crossed the yard. Parents carried paper plates. The bounce house blower hummed. Then my father appeared near the storage shed and called Madison over. The camera was too far away to catch every word, but the important parts were clear. He opened a shopping bag and showed her a white phone box. I saw her face change. She reached toward it, but he pulled it back and pointed toward the cake table. He told her to wait until everyone gathered around the candles. My brother walked behind them carrying a cooler. He slowed long enough to hear. He looked toward the cake, then at Madison. He did not tell our father to stop. He kept walking. Madison looked back at the phone box. "You mean really dump it on the cake?" My father answered without lowering his voice. "Only if you want the phone." She stood there for several seconds. That mattered to me. She was old enough to know it was wrong, but she had time to refuse. But she was still a child standing before her grandfather, looking at something she had wanted for months. He had taken her desire, wrapped it around his anger, and handed it back as a choice. I downloaded the recording to my laptop. I wrote down the timestamp, copied the file to an external drive, and emailed a copy to myself. Before cleaning the yard, I photographed the cake, the bucket, and the mud trail near the hose. Rebecca asked whether I wanted to send the video to the family group chat or post it online. No, I said. I'm saving it because I'm done arguing with people about what I saw with my own eyes. The camera did not make the cruelty more real. Noah, sitting alone on the front steps, had already done that. Evidence served a different purpose. It stopped people from turning cruelty into a family misunderstanding. That night, Noah did not ask for a story. He faced the wall and said he was tired. I sat outside his room, listening to the refrigerator downstairs. He was trying to make the evening easier for us by asking for nothing. Then Rebecca's phone rang. Megan had been working during the party, she said. My father had been angry since a dinner weeks earlier, that night. He had told Travis, "Your brother needs to remember who he owes." Megan had not understood what he meant. I did. 2 months earlier, my father had called and asked me to sign the largest loan he had ever brought to my door. For the first time in years, I had said no. 2 months before the birthday party, my father called on a Thursday night. I knew that voice. It was soft and careful. He only used it when a request was coming. Travis wanted to start a landscaping company. He had found used equipment at an auction. The bank would lend him $40,000, but only if someone with stronger credit signed beside him. My father said, "You make enough to handle it if anything goes wrong." That sentence told me everything. In his mind, my savings were a cushion for whatever risk my brother wanted to take. 4 years earlier, I had signed a truck loan for Travis. He made payments for 7 months, then stopped. He kept driving the truck while collection calls kept coming. The unpaid balance damaged my credit and ruined a mortgage refinance we had planned. In the end, I paid $22,000 from our savings. Travis never offered a payment plan. He never apologized. My father acted as if the problem had resolved itself. So I said no. He stayed quiet, then ended the call without saying goodbye. After that, the story changed. According to my father, success had made me selfish. I cared more about a credit score than my own brother. The truth was harder to ignore when I laid out the numbers. I had paid $19,600 for 2 years of Madison's tennis. My father called her gifted and said talent should not be wasted. I had committed another $9,800 for the coming year. I had booked a $7,000 Disney cruise because he said Travis and Megan deserved a vacation. I had covered his truck insurance at $140 a month because it was supposed to be temporary. Before that came a furnace repair, a dental bill, and the truck loan. Every request passed through my father. Every benefit reached someone else without my name attached. Madison was told she had earned a scholarship. Travis was told the cruise came from a family friend. My father remained the man who could arrange things, while I became the son who was never generous enough. I had helped build that system. I wanted peace. I wanted to be the good son. I thought quiet generosity protected people's dignity. Instead, it protected my father's control. There is a thin line between helping someone stand and holding them in place so they never have to stand on their own. Near midnight, I set my laptop on the kitchen table. The cruise reservation filled one side of the screen. The tennis sponsorship account filled the other. I had not clicked anything yet. Before I tell you what I did when I opened those accounts, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is there. I always enjoy seeing how far these stories travel. At 11:47 that night, the Disney reservation was still glowing on my laptop screen. The trip was 4 months away. I had less than a week left to receive a full refund. After that, the penalties would begin. I read the cancellation terms twice. I checked the card, confirmed that I was the booking party, and saved screenshots of the reservation. Rebecca sat across from me, holding a coffee mug. Would you still pay for this trip if what happened today had never been recorded? I looked at the names on the screen. No, the camera only proved what they were willing to do. A few minutes before midnight, I clicked cancel. The page paused, then confirmed that the refund would return to the original card. I did not feel victorious. I felt lighter, but ashamed that it had taken me years to understand that saying no did not require permission from people who benefited from my yes. Then I opened the tennis sponsorship account. The current season had been paid. The $9,800 for next year was still only a commitment. The academy had not transferred it. Madison's family would have 14 days to arrange payment or set up a plan. My hand stopped over the confirmation button. She had carried the bucket. She had made a choice, but she was also a child used by adults who understood far more than she did. Rebecca watched me hesitate. You are not taking tennis away from her. You are stopping her grandfather from volunteering your money. I withdrew the commitment. After that, I contacted the insurance company and removed my card from the next renewal on my father's truck. They would notify him and request another payment method. Nothing disappeared that night. The truck still belonged to him. Madison still had her racket. My brother still had his home and his job. I had not taken anything that belonged to them. I had stopped paying for it. The printer hummed in the quiet kitchen. I gathered the tennis invoices, cruise confirmation, insurance statements, old truck loan records, and a copy of the camera file. Each page went into a large envelope. I was not preparing a lawsuit. I was preparing for the story my father would tell. I knew he would reduce everything to a little mud on a birthday cake. People who live on your sacrifice often call a boundary punishment. Not because you harmed them, but because they finally have to pay the real cost of their lives. The next morning, I went into the backyard, 6 feet from where the cake table had stood. I found the box of 8 blue candles in the grass. It was still sealed. Dried mud covered one corner. I wiped it clean and placed it in the kitchen drawer. Then I carried the envelope to my truck. When I reached my father's house, my brother's pickup was already parked along the curb. I looked at the envelope on the passenger seat. They both needed to hear the truth at the same time. My father's house looked as it had when I was a teenager. The same brown recliner sat beneath the front window. Coffee still hung in the living room. Outside, Travis's pickup waited at the curb, the truck I had once helped save from repossession. Travis sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone as if the morning had brought nothing more serious than bad weather. My father pointed toward a chair. Sit down. Let's not turn this into something bigger than it is. That tone was familiar. He used it whenever he wanted to decide when a problem was over. I stayed standing. He sighed and said, "It was mud, not a car accident." Travis put his phone down. He offered to buy another cake and rent the bounce house again. In his mind, money could rebuild the scene and erase what Noah had seen. You can replace a cake, I said. You cannot replace the moment a child realizes his own family enjoyed humiliating him. My father shook his head. He said Noah had been spoiled by expensive parties and too much attention. According to him, the problem was not what they had done. The problem was how much I gave my son. It was an old trick. Move the argument away from your behavior, then put their character on trial. I placed the envelope on the coffee table and opened it. The first papers were from the tennis academy. The tennis was not a scholarship. I paid for it. Travis looked at me, then at our father. I set down the next page. 2 years of tuition, $19,600. The next year was already committed. Then came the cruise reservation. The Disney trip was not a gift from a family friend. I paid for that too. Travis leaned forward. You told me somebody from church arranged it. My father looked toward the window. I placed the insurance statements beside the reservation. Your truck insurance has been on my card for 18 months. My father tried to interrupt, but I kept my voice level. You asked me for the money, then you hid where it came from. You let everyone believe you were making things happen, while I became the selfish son whenever I said no. Some people do not want to know who pays the bill. Uncertainty lets them enjoy the help without feeling gratitude. Once the money stops, every dollar matters. I pulled out the old loan record. The truck you are still driving cost me $22,000 after you stopped paying. Travis stared at the page. Dad said he handled that. My father's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. That was the moment Travis understood. Our father had not only hidden my help, he had taken credit for it. My father looked at the papers across the table. What exactly did you do? I met his eyes. I stopped paying. What do you mean you stopped? My father asked. His calm certainty was gone. I told him the cruise had been canceled. The refund would return to my card. The tennis sponsorship had been withdrawn. His truck insurance would no longer renew, and the $40,000 loan would never carry my name. Travis stood so quickly his phone slid from his knee. He said he could buy another cake. He would rent the bounce house again, call the families, and make Madison apologize. He spoke faster with every promise, as if enough money could rebuild the moment Noah had lost. There is no party to redo, I said. Another party would make you feel better. It would not change what my son learned about his family. My father leaned forward. She's a child. You cannot take tennis away from a child because you're angry with me. For the first time that morning, he sounded protective of Madison. It might have meant something if he had protected her before offering her a phone in exchange for cruelty. You used your granddaughter to punish my son because I would not sign a loan, I said. He tried to interrupt. I am not taking anything that belongs to her. I am simply no longer paying for it. His face tightened. Then you're punishing a little girl for something I did. I looked at him. You punished my little boy for something I refused to do. The room went still. The old clock seemed louder. Madison had carried the bucket. She had known it was wrong. That part belonged to her. But the adults had bought the reward, chosen the timing, turned a child into a weapon, and stood in my yard laughing afterward. Her parents could pay the tuition. They could ask the academy for a payment plan. They could find another program. What they could not do was treat my bank account like a family obligation. Travis stared at the loan papers. You really paid the whole truck balance? $22,000, I said. That is why I would not sign another loan. He looked down at the carpet. It was the first sign of shame, but shame was not accountability. I gathered the original documents and left the copies on the table. At the doorway, I turned back. The academy will contact your household about the sponsorship. By tomorrow morning, somebody will have to explain who paid for the last 2 years. My father glanced toward the new phone. She may read it on the same phone you used to buy her cooperation. A boundary is not a speech meant to convince people you are right. It is a decision you keep when they try to make you feel cruel for making it. I closed the door behind me. No one followed. The next morning, the truth arrived in 3 paragraphs, and the first person to read it was the child they had used to deliver the punishment. The email arrived the next morning while Madison sat at the kitchen table with the new iPhone in her hand. The subject line read, "Enrollment update, private family sponsorship withdrawn." She read it, then looked at Travis. "Dad, what family sponsorship?" He stood at the counter holding a cereal box. He did not answer, because he truly did not know. Megan called the academy. The financial office confirmed that 2 years of tuition had been paid through a private family account. The commitment for next year was gone. The family had 14 days to arrange payment. Then the employee gave her the account name. Daniel Mercer Family Sponsorship Account. Megan repeated my name slowly. Madison looked at the teal phone case, then at the email. She placed the phone face down on the table. Uncle Dan paid for tennis? No one answered. I was not in that kitchen, but when Megan told Rebecca what happened, I understood. The gift Madison wanted most had become proof that adults bought her obedience with a lie. My father called before breakfast was over. He did not ask how she felt. You need to tell your mother the mud was your idea. He said that if Madison called it a childish prank, everyone would see me as cruel for ending the sponsorship. Then he offered another reward. Say it clearly and I'll find a way to get your tennis back, Madison answered quietly. But it wasn't my idea, my father said. It became your idea when you picked up the bucket. Megan heard him. She took the phone. You will not ask my child to carry your lie. Then she ended the call. Afterward, Travis claimed he had not known about the plan. Megan opened the family tablet. His messages were still synced. My father had written, "The phone is ready. She'll do it when the candles come out." Travis replied, Make sure everybody is watching. Dan needs to get the message. Later, he added, that went farther than I expected, but maybe now he'll listen. Travis reached for the tablet and tried to delete the conversation. Megan had already taken screenshots and emailed them to herself. You watched your father use our daughter to punish an 8-year-old boy, she said. Then you stood there and laughed. Travis said he wanted me to understand rejection. Megan did not raise her voice. Your brother said no to a loan. You answered by humiliating his child. She told him to sleep in the living room until she decided whether she could trust him again. Children must answer for their choices, but responsibility cannot hide the adults who designed the choice, offered the reward, and left the child carrying the cost. One phone held the tennis email, another still showed the cruise on the family calendar. 3 days later, that second screen brought another message. 3 days later, 2 new suitcases were still standing in Travis and Megan's hallway. Megan had bought them for the cruise. 2 large cases, a small carry-on for Madison, and packing cubes were stacked beside the stairs. A paper countdown still hung on the refrigerator. That morning, another email arrived. The subject line read, "Reservation canceled by booking party." Megan opened it while Travis stood beside the kitchen counter. The message confirmed that the cruise had been canceled and the refund had gone back to the original payment method. She asked who the booking party was. Travis could not answer. My father had told him an old family friend had arranged the trip. He had never asked which friend, and he had never seen the card used to pay for it. Megan placed the cruise email beside the tennis notice. What else is Dan paying for that I don't know about? Travis said nothing. A few minutes later, my phone rang. Megan did not waste time. She asked about the tennis first, then the cruise, then my father's truck insurance. I gave her the numbers and dates. 2 years of tennis had cost $19,600. The next year's commitment had been $9,800. The cruise had cost $7,000. My father's insurance had been $140 a month. Then she asked about the truck. Travis still drove. I told her the truth. After he stopped making payments, I had paid $22,000 to clear the loan and repair my credit. The line went quiet. Travis had told her my father handled that debt. There were other things too. An old furnace repair, a dental bill. Smaller payments that had felt harmless one at a time. I did not pretend I had no responsibility. I thought helping quietly protected his dignity, I told her. It didn't. It protected my father's system of lies. Financial dependence is most dangerous when the person depending on you does not know it. They begin to believe everything came from talent, luck, or entitlement. When the truth arrives, they lose more than money. They lose the story they used to understand their own life. Megan did not leave Travis that day. She gave him conditions, marriage counseling, full disclosure of every debt, no new loans, no financial decisions through my father, no asking Madison to call me about tennis. From then on, their household would pay its own expenses. Then she carried the suitcases into the garage. They stay there until I know which parts of this life were actually ours. Afterward, she told Travis to call my father and make one thing clear. He was no longer allowed to make promises, arrange money, or speak for their family. Travis never got the chance. My father had already started calling the relatives first. By noon, my phone had started ringing. The first call came from an aunt who said I was ruining Madison's future over a birthday prank. Later, a cousin told me I had too much money to be this petty. Someone else asked why I could not forgive family and move on. Every caller had heard the same version. According to my father, Madison had spilled some mud by accident. I had become furious over an expensive cake. Then I used money to punish a child and control everyone around me. The $40,000 loan was never mentioned. Neither was the phone box, the camera, or the instructions given before the candles came out. In families like mine, the first battle is often not over facts. It is over who gets to tell the story first. A controlling person knows that if he can define you as selfish, every boundary you set afterward will look like proof. Rebecca asked whether I wanted to send the video to the family group. I opened the file on my laptop. The image froze on my father holding out the white phone box, while Madison stood in front of him. My finger rested over the send button. For a few seconds, I wanted everyone to see it. I wanted the calls to stop. I wanted my father to hear the silence he had created in my backyard. Then I thought about Noah. I thought about Madison too. Neither child deserved to become evidence passed around by adults who wanted to win an argument. So I closed the message window. Instead, I sent the video, photographs, and financial records to an attorney for safekeeping. Then I wrote one short response for the relatives who had contacted me. The act was planned by adults and recorded. The financial support was voluntary and has ended. I will not discuss the children publicly. I also asked them not to call Noah, question him, or repeat family gossip where he could hear it. One aunt called back that evening. Her voice had changed. She said my father had never mentioned the loan, the phone, or the camera. I did not ask her to take my side. I don't need sides, I said. I need people to stop calling my son collateral damage. After that, the calls slowed. Relatives began asking my father what the recording showed. Others wanted to know why he had hidden the source of the money. He became angry and accused me of threatening the family's reputation. But for the first time, people did not accept his version without questions. When the phone finally went quiet, I thought the worst might be over. Then my father called me. This time, he did not mention the cake or the loan. He said he was having chest pain. My father's voice sounded thin when I answered. He said the pain had been coming and going for several days. Sometimes it sat under his ribs. Sometimes his arm felt numb. His doctor wanted blood work and a full cardiac panel, but the copay was more than he could manage. Then he stopped talking. I knew that pause. For years, it had been the space where I was expected to offer money before he had to ask. When I stayed quiet, his tone changed. If something happens to me, you need to understand what this stress has done. He said Travis was not sleeping. Megan barely spoke to him. Madison had not touched her racket. Relatives were choosing sides. According to him, all of it had happened because I could not let go of a little mud on a birthday cake. I listened until he finished. I did not know whether the pain was real. I also did not need to decide if it was real. He needed medical help. If it was not, he was using fear to pull me back into the same role I had played for years. Neither possibility required my credit card. If you are having chest pain, call 911. He said nothing. If you are calling for money, the answer is no. The silence grew longer. Either way, I am not the person you call anymore. His voice sharpened. He asked whether I was really willing to abandon my own father when he might be sick. Telling you to call an ambulance is not abandoning you, I said. Refusing to finance you is not abandoning you either. Then I made the boundary plain. I would not pay the copay. I would not restore the truck insurance. I would not sign the business loan. I would not cover another bill because he had promised someone I would handle it, and he would never use my name again to make an offer, arrange a payment, or create an obligation I had not agreed to. He started to say Noah had always been too sensitive. I stopped him. My son is not a lesson you get to teach. Then I ended the call. Rebecca was standing near the kitchen doorway. She did not ask what he had wanted. She had heard enough to understand. The most mature boundary is not the moment we stop caring. It is the moment we learn to care without accepting responsibility for another adult's choices, debts, or consequences. For the first time, I did not feel guilty after saying no. I felt quiet. A few days later, a small envelope arrived at our house. Noah's name was written across the front in a child's careful handwriting. The envelope had no return address. Noah's name was written across the front in blue ink, slightly crooked, as if the person holding the pen had stopped more than once. Rebecca looked at it and knew before I did. That's Madison's handwriting. Because Noah was 8, we opened the letter first, not to hide anything from him. We wanted to make sure no adult had used the apology to pressure him or ask for something in return. The letter was written on lined notebook paper. So Madison said she knew dumping the mud was mean. She said Grandpa told her Noah needed to be taught a lesson, and that he would give her the new phone if she did it when everyone was watching. She admitted that she wanted the phone enough to agree. Then she wrote about the email. She had not known I paid for tennis. She had not known her father and grandfather were angry about a loan. She understood now that none of that made the bucket lighter in her hands. One sentence sounded exactly like an 11-year-old. I thought it would be funny for 5 seconds, then everybody left and it wasn't funny anymore. She apologized for ruining the cake and making Noah feel embarrassed in front of his friends. She said another party would not fix it. She did not ask me to restore the sponsorship. She did not ask Noah to forgive her. Megan had told us that Madison put the iPhone in a drawer and stopped taking it to school. She had rolled up the tennis net in their backyard by herself. She no longer wanted calls from my father, and the school counselor had begun meeting with her. That did not mean everything inside her had changed. She was still angry, ashamed, and confused. Children do not become wiser all at once, because adults finally tell them the truth. That evening, I placed the unopened envelope in front of Noah. "This letter belongs to you," I said. "You can read it today, later, or never." He studied the blue writing. "Do I have to forgive her?" "No, an apology gives you information. It does not take away your choice." He carried the envelope to his room and placed it on the shelf beside his books. He did not open it that night. A sincere apology does not demand that the injured person make you feel better. It tells the truth, accepts the consequence, and leaves forgiveness where it belongs, with the person who was hurt. Protecting Noah did not mean teaching him to hold on to anger. It meant returning the choice that adults had taken from him on his birthday. 1 month after the party, Rebecca took a box of vanilla cake mix from the pantry. Noah did not know the 8 blue candles were still waiting in the kitchen drawer. 1 month after the party, the kitchen smelled like vanilla. There were no guests, no bounce house, no 3-tier cake, no decorations, and no phones recording anything. There were only 3 of us. Rebecca set a sheet cake on the table. The frosting was smooth and white. Noah opened the kitchen drawer to find a plastic knife. Instead, he saw the box of blue candles. He stopped. One corner still carried a line of dried mud. He wiped it with his thumb, opened the box, and began placing the candles into the frosting. The first one went near the left edge. The second stood beside it. Then the third. He kept going until all 8 were upright. Madison's letter rested on the shelf across the room. Noah had opened it and read part of it before folding it again. He had not said he forgave her. He only asked whether he might talk to her someday without our fathers or grandfather in the room. I told him that could happen when both children were ready, with someone safe nearby. Not everything outside our kitchen had been repaired. My father was paying for his own truck insurance. The $40,000 loan remained unsigned. Travis had started marriage counseling and was working through a repayment plan with Megan. She had separated their finances from my father. Madison was taking a break from the academy and continued meeting with her school counselor. I had not restored any sponsorships. Those consequences were real, but they were not what mattered most. Rebecca struck a match and lit the candles one by one. 8 flames stood steady in the kitchen air. Noah looked at us. This time, I know what to wish for. I did not ask what the wish was. He closed his eyes, took one breath, and blew out every candle. For a long time, I had mistaken rescue for love. I thought family meant the people I was required to save, no matter how they treated me. I know better now. Family is not defined by a shared name, shared blood, or the number of years you have known someone. Family is defined by the people who protect your children, respect your boundaries, and never turn love into a debt. Dignity was not the satisfaction of watching others lose what I once paid for. It was leaving that system without becoming cruel myself. My name was no longer on a cruise reservation, a sponsorship account, an insurance payment, or another loan. That night, it appeared only on a small card beside the cake, written in my son's handwriting. Dad, on a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied were you with the way I handled this? Would you have canceled the tennis sponsorship too? Or would you have drawn the line somewhere else? Please share your honest opinion in the comments.